I've paid thousands of dollars in courses to learn what you're basically teaching on your podcast for free. What you're putting out there is so valuable. So, I just really want to acknowledge you, and I definitely send everyone to your podcast.
You were virtually one of the first mentors that I looked up to and started following. You're always one step ahead of the game. So I just wanted to give you kudos and props for that, because lots of people are watching, lots of people are learning from it.
Tucker and the whole TTM crew, Dan and Chris, thanks so much for your support. I love what you guys do, and a huge fan. Having this support's huge. So I'm grateful for that.
What's up, everybody out there in listener land? This is episode 274 of the Real Dealz podcast, and I'm recording today as I drive around to a few projects that I'm going to check out. Hey, I've got a great episode for you guys this week. It's going to be a repost. It's going to be an episode that we did, a year ago or so, and it was our most popular episode that we've had, or at least we'll say top 3 most popular. The most popular episode we've ever had as far as an interview goes, and which is, not surprising given the information, but the individual that was on here is a little bit, he's not out there, all over social media, in the guru space or in the, get to know him type space. He kind of keeps to himself. And he does a lot of big things, just kind of doing it on his own and doing his own thing. I'm fortunate enough to be able to call him a member of our Deal Finders Academy, which is awesome. But what we talked about in this interview with Mr. David Martinez is cold calling. And cold calling has been one of those things that has definitely become more popular as time has gone on. And especially over the last year, it's kind of a big thing. And, he doesn't do anything but cold call. And he's been doing this for a long time. And so the guy's got a lot of knowledge on it. Sometimes these episodes get buried. We've done 274 of them now. So I like to bring some of the best ones back to the surface. So that way, if you guys are new to the show, or, you just listened to it a long time ago, you could use a refresher. Maybe it'll stimulate some new ideas, some new motivation for you. This will do it. So this week's show, after the intro here, is going to be a repost with my man, Mr. David Martinez, and all about the ins and outs of cold calling and how to do it effectively, which is a very important skill set these days. Now, before we get into all that, first thing I want to mention is our housekeeping items, of course. Our Driving for Dollars app, for those of you guys that are customers or users of the app or are looking to be, we're releasing a new tier this week, and the tier is very simple. It's just a list building tier. So it allows you to essentially go out and build as big a list as you want. You can use it. People on your team can use it. Uber drivers can use it. And then you can access all of the homes, properties, whatever it is that they add to the list, and then you can market to them. You can skip trace them outside of the app, and then you can market to them. So that's a really cool feature. Some of you guys have been asking for it. For those of you guys that have either big list building capabilities, or you have a big, kind of ant farm of people that can go around and deliver you addresses of homes that need work. And so if that's the case, then you've got a pretty cool little deal with our Driving for Dollars app now, where you can use that in order to build these lists for a very, very cheap price. So go check that out. It's the Driving for Dollars app. It's in the iTunes store. It's in the Google Play Store. If you have not downloaded it already, and if you have downloaded it, now you can get this tier for a very cheap price. So go check it out. Now, beyond that, we're looking to add people to our Deal Finders Academy, or our DFA Mastermind group. For those of you guys that are members that are listening, I thank you very much. For those of you guys that are not, I encourage you to reach out to us. There'll be a link in the show notes page. You probably got our emails over the last few weeks if you're on our email list. But we're really making a push to add more people to our virtual mastermind group. And, I was thinking about it the other day, and there's a lot of reasons why being a part of the DFA is something that you should at least entertain. But one of the biggest ones, at least for me right now, and I, obviously we created the DFA, but I love being a part of it as well, is that I've got family, I got 2 little kids. It's tough for me to travel. Travel is difficult, and a lot of mastermind groups are great groups, but they require travel in order to kind of maximize the money that you're spending to be a part of them, right? To have the camaraderie and meet up with people and do the quarterly events or more, which is a great thing if you can do it. Unfortunately for me, it's just really difficult with everything that we have going on, especially with 2 little kids and vacations anyway in the summertime, and it just makes it difficult. So having a virtual mastermind group that you can be a part of eliminates the need for travel in order to be a part of something, a part of a group, and be able to mastermind with high-level people from all over the country. So it's a great feature or a great reason to join. And other than that, it's also such a cost-effective price point that you can really layer it on top of being a part of other groups as well. So if you're a part of an in-person mastermind group, you can be a part of ours as well for not much more money a year. And you can get some fresh ideas, you can meet some new people, and it's just a great in addition to mastermind as well. So anyway, point is, we'd love to have you reach out to us, book a call with Dan, and hopefully we have a spot available in your area because we don't stack people directly on top of each other. And if we do, we'd love to make you a part of the group. Now, that's pretty much wraps up what's going on with our housekeeping stuff. So what's going on with me and TTM over the course of the past week? Well, it's been a busy week, that's for sure. We're in summer mode, which means a lot of you guys are probably in the same boat. We're kind of, going places on the weekend, trying to take advantage of the nice weather, a little bit of a whirlwind. Last week, I went fishing, which is not normally my thing. I went fishing twice, actually. Once I struck out, but the time before that, I actually went during the week on an annual event or an annual trip that I go with my pops. And we went down to the Umpqua River, which is just north of Roseburg, where we put in, and I actually set a record. I caught a 20-inch smallmouth bass, which for those that were in the boat that were much more experienced fishermen than me, it was probably a little irritating to have a guy that doesn't fish that much set a record like that, but hey, I'll take it, right? So anyway, I posted a picture on Facebook for those of you guys who are friends with me. I gotta live that glory out a little bit, even though I'm not a big fisherman, so that was cool. And then this week we're going over to Lake Billy Chinook we got some family that's got a place over there, and do some wakeboarding and inner tubing and four-wheel riding and all kinds of stuff like that. So definitely in full swing. But on top of that, we got a lot of projects going on too. So we're getting close to kind of wrapping up, I don't want to say, but like the last 30% of our Dunthor project. So for those of you guys that have been watching our $1 Million Build series, which we release here on the podcast as well, you can see that we've made a lot of progress. We're looking to have that project done probably end of September. And so we're really excited to kind of wrap that one up and then obviously see how well it does on the market. It's going to be a $3 million plus home when it's done, which is a high price point here for Portland, but it's also a one-of-a-kind house in terms of where it's at. So I think that the market will reward us for it, and I think it will be absorbed pretty quickly. But we're excited to get it done and show it off to the world because it's been a lot of thought. Probably our best designed home by far, which is why we've been shooting a docu-series on it called $1 Million Build. So if you haven't, check that out. Beyond that, we've got another house we're ripping and tearing in the West Lynn area. That's going to be a great tri-level type home. We're going to do it as a modern farmhouse design. And we got it all tore apart. Now we're going to put it back together. It's just one of those houses that's great street, great area. It'll sell really well. Whoever ends up buying it on the other end is going to have a great house. And, it's got a big lot size comparatively to the new construction, but it's on a street with new construction, and it'll have all new amenities. It's just going to be an awesome house. So we're ripping and tearing on that. And then we finally got all clear from the people that were fighting us on the trees for one of our building permits. We were able to pick up this morning, and we had a few other things that they had to approve on the actual plans themselves, but we're picking up a building permit this morning to start a new project. And then I actually met with a seller on Monday who's got 5 lots in some highly desirable parts of Lake Oswego here. And I don't know if we're going to do all 5, but we may take on 3, which is pretty exciting because it's actually the last piece of land in an area that's been fully developed that we've done a lot of developing in. And, once you get down to kind of the last few pieces of dirt that are left in any given area, it's usually a good idea to buy those. Just a little word to the wise there. If there's not anything else to buy to redevelop, and you can buy the last piece of land that can be redeveloped, at least at scale anyway, it's probably a good idea to buy it. So anyway, I'm going to meet with him later this week and try and work something out, but I'm pretty excited. We got him to call us after about 3 years of marketing to him, so it took a while, but eventually he caved, and our marketing worked, and he reached out to us. And really, it just worked because timing was right. Now he wants to sell, which is ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what marketing is, right? You market to people, and at the point that they want to sell, they actually reach out to you. And then once they reach out to you, hopefully you can put a deal together as long as their price is reasonable. And this guy's pretty reasonable. So it looks like we should be able to put something together, and it would be a 3-lot deal for us in probably one of the most, hottest parts of Lake Oswego, both now and moving forward. So that's the Cliff Notes version of what's going on with us. Of course, we got a lot of other things going on as well, but I don't want to bore you guys with too many details. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Like I said, it's a repost of my man, Mr. David Martinez. He is the best salesperson I have ever met in my entire life, and you're not going to find a better cold caller either. So hopefully you guys take some golden nuggets from this week's show and give the guy some love. So here we go. Enjoy.
All right, Real Deals podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did.
On the line via Skype, first time caller, first time user, longtime DFA member, possibly the best salesperson I've ever met, super smart real estate investor, and just an overall good dude who literally sends 0 direct mail to generate new leads for his business, Mr. David Martinez. How was that for an intro?
That's pretty fantastic. Thank you.
It took me a little while to put that one together. I felt pretty good about it, so I'm glad you like it. All right, so I got you on here. I got a few questions because I don't know the answers to some of these as well. Before we get into what we're really going to talk about today, which is cold calling, give me a quick rundown because I don't know personally. How did you make your way into the real estate biz? Like, how did you land there?
Do you want the short, or do you want me to explain from
just
the?
Go because I can't. I'm not gonna hold you back. I'm gonna let you run. So
okay. Well, I guess it's kind of how can I put it? It just is kind of it was a natural progression how I got into real estate because the way I got into, I guess, it starts with sales. So that's really where I started with phone sales because about when I was 19, which is a lot of years ago. I worked at Little Caesars. That was basically my first job. And I was working there making no money. And at that time I was going to school and I had no car. So in Miami, you have no car. It's a big problem because here it's not like other places where public transportation, you could go and get it and move around. Here's if you got no car, forget about it. You got a gas. So I had my mom driving me around to school. And then I sometimes would hitch, rides from friends to work and stuff like that. And it just got old. So I was like, man, I got to do something because I can't be doing this forever. And I can't be working at Little Caesars making no money. And I can't wait till I graduate from college in order to try to make some bread. So I was like, I got to do something. So I went to a head hunting company. I don't know if you guys have that over there, where they find you a job. And the lady's like, look, have you ever tried doing sales, phone sales? Would you be open to it? And I was like, yeah, look, I don't care. I just want to make money. So I'd be open to anything. They're like, well, yeah, we have this company. It's a computer company. They're looking for people, and they're specifically looking for college kids who have no sales experience, and they want to train you. And I was like, all day. So this was during the .com boom, and I started working for a company. I'm not going to say their name, but they were a pretty huge distributor of computer parts and computers, computer equipment, stuff like that. And that's basically where I got my start with sales. So when I started there, I was there probably for like 2-3 years. And at the beginning, I got the training from them in regards to do sales. So the way that it works with them, when you start off, you kind of get a mentor or somebody who kind of shadows you. And that's basically how I started. And it's kind of like they put you with different people, and they put me with this guy who was like in the corner cubicle by the window, and he was just kind of like really weird and always drinking cold coffee. And then I just sat down with him, and the guy was just like, "Look, man, I'm gonna tell you right now, this is gonna be quick. You know, people come in here, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, because this is phone sales. So I've been here for 10 years. And he's like, and if you learn this one thing, like you're gonna do good. And he's like, people want to buy, but nobody wants to be sold. And he's like, okay.
Was this like your Matthew McConaughey of Wolf of Wall Street conversation?
You couldn't have said it any perfect. That's exactly what it was, man. And then like when he said that to me, it didn't trigger, it didn't click in at first, but I was just like, I was so green, like I didn't know anything. So like I didn't know what he was telling me. But all I knew was this guy was like, dude, he was there for 10 years and he was like one of the top producers. And then that's what he said. So then basically the way the job worked is they're a marketing company, and they would just get people's products, and then they would send out, they had a big database, and they would send out like a catalog. So I wasn't making like outbound calls. We were just taking inbound calls, and I had no control over it. Like you put a headset on and you sat down, and you were just taking incoming calls to basically try to sell people and stuff. And I was taking like 150 to 200 calls a day. So it was like a huge volume. It was nationwide. So that was good for me because that kind of taught me about like different personalities. Because I could be talking to a guy from New York, like fast talking, slick, like, hey, no bullshit, what do you got? And then like literally when I finished that conversation with that guy, 2 minutes later, I'm talking to a sweet grandma from the Midwest. So that was my first introduction to sales and phone sales. And then that job, you know, I needed a car so bad, and I was so addicted to like the whole sales thing that in the first year there, I was like salesman of the year. And I ended up being like making no money at Little Caesars, working like part-time, to I was making like $5,000 to $7,000 a month, 19 years old, living at home. So, you know, it was like a huge shift in my mindset. And at that point I was just like in college, and I was like, dude, what, you know, like, is this really what I'm going to go to college, and then what? I'm making more money than probably like most people who get a college degree. And at that point, I decided that that's what I wanted to do. So at that point, I did my 2 years of college. I finished. I was like, dude, I'm not going back. I stayed there for a little bit. Then I got recruited by, I'm not going to say the name, it's a huge cruise line here in Miami, because basically what they wanted to do, they wanted to phase out travel agents. So they started their own direct sales, and they were doing phone calls. So they recruited me. I worked there for a couple of years. It was good. But then a friend of mine went over somewhere else, and he started doing mortgages for like a mortgage company. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you going to go work in that? A couple of months go by, and then a neighbor of mine next door, she's this girl, she was dating this guy. And this guy, I'm no joke, this guy literally had come from Cuba, like in a raft. I wish I was joking. The guy had literally come in a raft from Cuba. He was here for like 2-3 years. I met the guy, super cool. A couple of months go by, and this guy had bought like a Z4 BMW. Another like 6 months go by, now this guy has a Porsche Turbo. And then no joke, a year and a half later, the guy had a Ferrari. And I was like, woo! I was like, what the And he's like, dude, what are you doing, man? And he's like, I'm doing loans. I'm selling mortgages. And I was like, yeah, this guy's doing that. I'm like, I'm in the wrong industry. So I got recruited by Countrywide in their subprime division. And then when I went, you did loans too, so you know.
Oh yeah,
like,
you were slinging the shit of the shit.
Dude, when I walked in there, no joke, it was like, if you ever watched Wolf of Wall Street or Boiler Room, that's what was going in there. It was like the generics of it was just like a hot mess. And it was just, that was my first introduction into basically what was real estate. But at that point, I wasn't like these guys. These guys were basically just trying to make a quick dollar. And I saw the big future. I'm like, look, I quit school to try to do this full time. So my intent was to try to build something. And that's where I kind of learned a lot of things from my previous training. So the things that I learned from, let's say, when I first worked at the computer company place, and then I worked from with the cruise line, where you have to have a database, manage people, learn how to deal with different personalities. I took all that training and I basically implemented it when I worked with Countrywide, and I ended up building this huge database of like clients and people that I would follow up. I would send newsletters every single month, and people were like, why are you doing that, dude? It's just like get people in and off the phone and make money. I was like, nah, man, that's not my style. And I ended up building a large database. And then when the market crashed, I went on my own. And then that database that I had built, that was pretty much a gold mine for me, because I was in Countrywide subprime. So every single customer that I had was pretty much losing their house. And at this point, they were starting calling me in order to try to help them with their situation. So I kind of had a lifeline where people were struggling. I was kind of in a good position, because at that point, I was able to help people like with short sales, with loan modifications. And that's when I started, getting into the real estate side of it. And I got my real estate license. And then from there, it just exploded.
Okay. All right. So I get the pieces now. I didn't know that, actually. I realize now why you're such a good salesman, but before we get into that, so what was that thing that Mr. Matthew McConaughey of the call room there? What did he tell you that you needed to be good at in order to succeed? Was there anything that you remember from that conversation?
Yeah, basically that. People want to buy, so people don't want to be sold. So basically, from that, it was just like the way and my technique always, and this is the way that I do it now. My approach was always like, okay, how can I help you get what you want? Rather than the mentality of like, let me try to sell this person something. And since that was the first thing I learned, I've always been very customer oriented, and I have a longer sales process than a lot of other people. And just learning it, it's just basically building a relationship. So that's really what has been the key for me, because every time when I make phone calls and when I call people, my intent is never to try to sell something to them. My intent is like, hey, is there something that I can do for you? Because I have a lot of knowledge, I have a lot of skill, I have a lot of ability. Can I help you in something? And if I can help you get what you want, that I might get what I want. So basically, that's what I learned.
Gotcha. And so then that fast forward to today, Countrywide obviously collapsed, and then you kind of segued on your own, which is now kind of a multi-service type operation, right?
Correct.
So you've got short sale, you've got loan modification, and then you've obviously got your investment side, where you invest and flip your own properties as well.
Correct. Yeah, because first we started, because the other part that I did, because when I branched out on my own, I became basically a loan officer. So at that point, there wasn't that many people buying. The only people that were buying were people who were buying a first-time home buyer. So I kind of hooked up with the county. I started offering people like grants for first-time home buyers. I started educating, again, giving back. So I started educating and doing workshops for the county and for nonprofits on how you can get grants to be able to buy. And then from there, it branched out to like, okay, now that I'm helping people get money, the problem is that for some reason, they can't find a place. So then I got my license. I was able to help people get into a house, but there were a lot of crappy houses. And it kind of grew into, okay, well, look, if I'm helping people get into a house, but then I'm dealing with all these realtors, what about if I were to purchase these properties, fix them up, have the perfect product for this person, and now I'm helping them with the loan, helping them with everything, plus I'm providing them with the property. This is something that's going to be obviously beneficial for them, but then now I'm going to make a lot of money.
Right.
And then I hooked up with, it's just all the pieces fell into place, because my father-in-law, he's in construction, and my uncle, he was vice president of Santander Bank in Puerto Rico, so he had a lot of capital. And I would talk to him, and I had done a couple of investments for him, and he was like, dude, I believe in you, and let's do it. And he just basically funded my whole operation. So that's how I got to where I'm at.
That's fantastic. So that's a hell of a funding source. I didn't realize that. Obviously, you're a proven asset now to him, so it's probably no brainer, but definitely a great connection to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk real quick before we get into the cold calling stuff, because I want to break it down for people. Let's talk a little bit about Miami real estate. What's up with the market down there right now, in your opinion?
It's crazy, man. It's so funny because yesterday, like, if you there's different pockets and it's hard to say because, like, if you don't know Miami's not that big, but there's certain areas in Miami where the prices don't make sense, and it's kind of like when we were in DFA and I was making a joke where, like, I'm selling houses where Rick Ross used to live for like $300,000. It just doesn't make any sense. So the pricing right now is it's ridiculous. It's through the roof in certain pockets. There's a lot of opportunity, more in, like we had talked about in the DFA and on the meeting about modular construction, stuff like that. I see those opportunities there, but pricing is ridiculous right now. I don't see how it's going to sustain where it is right now because it's too high.
I know in like the last boom bust cycle, we'll call it, obviously the subprime world had a lot to do with that in terms of mortgage lending, but I know Miami was way overbuilt with condo inventory. Has there been a lot of that, or is there just no more dirt to actually do a lot of that condo construction?
When cranes are in the air, beware. It's the same thing here, dude. Okay. There's cranes everywhere. There's new construction everywhere. And then again, that's where you have to shift because Miami's Miami. It's a hot market, like super cool, expensive cars, expensive this, expensive that. So the market for the higher end, I see it super saturated, and I think that's going to explode. But where the opportunity exists is in affordable housing because you can't buy anything right now that's affordable. And I come from those roots where I've worked with first-time home buyers when the market crashed to help people in. And to me, that's where the opportunity is going to be now and in the very near future. Because if you could figure out the housing problem, you're going to help people and you're going to make a ton of money because that's where we're going.
Yeah, it feels like Miami's kind of a boom bust type market. It's either booming or busting, right? Like
that's where we are. That's exactly what we are.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's dive into the nitty gritty. Let's dive into your superpower here, which is basically cold calling. So break it down for me, right? Like, this cold calling is essentially an art form. Like, after you've been doing it as long as you've been doing it, and I know a lot of people have reservations and challenges about it, but maybe let's start out with, how do you get into the right mental headspace? Like, do you have a structure, like time of day, or a way that you get into the right mental, headspace in order to actually tackle the phone and talk to people that maybe don't want to talk to you? What's your process look like for that?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. All right, so I think mentally, even before you start dialing, the first thing you'll have to think and the first thing you'll have to know is that basically cold calling is a specialized skill. So let's say, for example, if like we're the military and we're the United States and we're going to go into war and we're going to send our army and we're going to send the Air Force. So to me, the army and the Air Force would be, let's say, like direct mail. We send massive pieces. We do stuff like that. And then you have a very special team, which I would call like the SEALs. And then you send the SEALs in, and it's a small group, and they go in, and they go in and out real fast, and they do their attack. To me, cold calling is almost like that because cold calling is not easy. It's easy to pick up the phone and make the dial, but to consistently do it, it's very challenging. So, you have to have a certain mindset. You have to think of it like that. Like it's very specialized. So for mindset, I would say the most important thing is that there's no way in the world you're going to pick up that phone and expect that you're going to get a deal the first time that you dial or the first time you talk to somebody. Because then if that's your intent, then you're going back to that whole thing about people want to buy, but people don't want to get sold. If you're being sold, somebody's pushing something down your mouth. So it's the same thing where if you pick up the phone and you're thinking that you're going to make a sale on your first shot, then number one, it's not going to happen because people are not going to be receptive to that. And number two, you're also setting yourself up for failure because guess what? More than likely, the odds of that happening are very small. So then if you are dialing with the intent of landing a deal right off the bat, then you will fail and you will quit cold calling. So my intent and then what I'm always thinking about is, okay, how am I going to serve this person? So when I call, I'm setting up my mindset. Number one, that I'm going to get a no from them because if I get no's, then I'm going in the right direction because I will get no's. That way I'm not going to be discouraged. But number two, to try to find either some sort of motivation or some sort of light or something where I can plant a seed, and then from that point I can build a relationship and then follow up, because I know down the line eventually they will have to do something. Now, are they going to do something with the guy down the street, or are they going to do something with somebody they've already built a relationship and they know that I have their best interest in mind? So that's my mindset when I'm going to call. Always, that's my mindset.
Yeah, and I think that's good, because I think a lot of people, they kind of expect if they call, they're going to get a deal, or if they don't get a deal, then it doesn't work, right?
Correct.
So,
that's absolutely correct. It's almost like direct mail. A lot of people have the mindset where I'm going to send a one piece, or I'm going to send 10,000 mailers or 5,000 mails. Well, if I don't get a deal, this stuff doesn't work. It's not like that. So it's the same thing.
right. So let's get even a little more granular, right? We got our head straight. We're expecting a no or a FU, right? And if we get a pleasant conversation and maybe we'll talk later, it's a win. But
right.
In terms of like, okay, you make the call, somebody picks up. Do you have like a structure to the conversations on how you try and get them to flow so that you can ultimately build rapport and ultimately maybe even a follow-up date? Or what do those conversations look like? Or do you just kind of feel?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can't wing it, because if you wing it, then you're going to get just winged results. I guess that's the best way to put it. So no, absolutely. There has to be a structure. There has to be something in place. Now, what's more important is who your target audience is and who are you calling. And obviously in real estate, there's a lot of different leads, probate, there's pre-foreclosures, there's equity. So number one is obviously knowing what your audience is. And based on who my audience is, it's going to be what the way that my flow and my conversation is going to go. Ideally at the beginning, really what it is to me is always an intro. And then I want to create that cold call and turn it into a warm call. So if there's something that I can offer them, something of benefit, some information, a lot of times I call and I say, hey, look, let's say if it's a property that we rehab close by, or a property that I just finished purchasing, I'll call, I'll introduce myself, and I'll say, hey, listen, Bobby down the street, we just finished selling his house. He was in a certain situation. I know you know him, nice guy, but we just finished purchasing the property. I just want to let you know, and I want to introduce myself in case anything happens. Look up on my property, and there's anything I can do. If any of the workers come by, and something's not right, then give me a call. Now, I'm not randomly calling anybody. Obviously, I've done a driving for dollars using your app. I've looked at the properties that I'm interested in, and I'm making these calls with that intent in mind, where I'm planting the seed specifically with these people, because this is potentially a property that I might want to buy. So that's just an example of something that I would do with, let's say, a driving for dollars, or a property that I finished purchasing or selling, where I'm reaching out to a potential opportunity.
Right. So let's say you did a project in the area. You notice from whatever your criteria is, another property in the area. You look up the people, you find out who owns it, and then you give them a call, essentially just doing what we just talked about.
Absolutely. Very warm, nothing crazy. Obviously, it's a cold call, but I'm planting a seed. And I'm going to tell you, 99% of the people, they're very receptive. It's very rare that you get an FU or why are you calling me? You get a lot of how'd you get my number? But, those are easy things to get over, because it's just a question. It's not an obstacle. So, you answer the question, you say it right, and then you just keep moving with the conversation. And people are happy to talk.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I know, it's all right. I've noticed that if you have a reasonable answer to their question, it gets them to kind of open up after that, right? If you put up that wall, like, well, how'd you get my number, right? Well, just give them a reasonable answer, right? That seems to satisfy them, at least in our experience.
Yeah, it's logic. And also with your tonality, I think also that's very important, because that translates over the phone. Because that's a huge thing about phones. They can't see your face. So basically you're just like when we're having a conversation face to face, you're talking a certain way, but your body language says something to me. So the same thing when you're over the phone, you can't see me. So my body language, you can't see that, but my tonality, the way I talk, the speed. So if somebody asks me that question and I say it's scared, they're going to be receptive to that. Whereas they give me that question, but I answer it with confidence. It almost doesn't matter what I say. They're like, okay, I got you. And that's it.
Gotcha. So you basically call them, number one, you got to get in the mental headspace that a no is fine. You're really just trying to build a relationship.
You want to know. A no's
You
not
wanna-
fine.
okay.
You want
All
to
right.
know. Yeah, you want to know.
You're going for no. We're going for no,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
number one in the headspace. Number two is you're just calling to kind of open lines of communication because you either have a project around the way or you sold somebody's house around the way. There's another reason why you're calling them to basically just introduce yourself, right? That's the
Correct.
end, which then gets them to maybe take down those walls that people would immediately put up if they knew you were trying to sell them right away, right?
Absolutely. Correct.
So then those are the two kind of angles, or we'll call them inroads, to get not only on the phone, but to make a little bit of headway in building a relationship with somebody. How do you then do this day in and day out? Like, what does your schedule look like? How are you so consistent with it? How do you do that? Because I know a lot of people have a real problem being consistent with anything, let alone something like cold calling.
Yeah, obviously, number one is discipline. You have to be disciplined. And then the only way to be disciplined is if something motivates you. I like making a lot of money. That motivates me. And I know that by me doing this, it's going to generate the money that I want to live the certain lifestyle that I have. So that's people always say the why, but I guess that's really, you have to have a reason. It's kind of like you're going to go to the gym. That gets played out after a while. But if you have, if you're a person that you suffer from diabetes or something, you're like, dude, I want to live for my kids. Okay, there's your motivation. That's why you wake up every morning and go to the gym. So you have to have a certain motivation because it's not easy, Tucker, for me to wake up in the morning. I wake up at 4 to do everything I have to do and then drop off my daughter to school. And then once I'm done, I'm on the phones at 9 o'clock and I'll be on the phones in not a long time. It's not, I'm going to be on the phone for 40 hours.
You really wake up at 4 in the morning?
Yeah, brother. Every day, man.
You're a crazy
I got
asshole.
2 kids. I got 2 kids. What are we going to do?
So do I. I mean, I'm up at 5:30 a lot of times, but 4 is whew, that's...
Yeah, no, I'm a morning person, so no, I love it. So then, that's it. It's just, I forgot what I was saying.
Yeah, I derailed you. Sorry, that 4 a.m. thing kind of blew me away. But anyway, at 4 a.m.
Oh, that's not my call schedule.
So
from 9 to 10:30, I make calls. I use a Mojo Dialer. I have a list. I have a goal. So my goal is to make 5 to 10 contacts a day. Contacts is where somebody picks up the phone and then and they're having a conversation with me. I say hi. I make an introduction. I say whatever I have to say. And then once I do that, I check off. If I don't get my number of contacts, then I continue in the afternoon. But I do breaks, So I have that goal. Every day I have to get 5 to 10 contacts, and I want to get a certain amount of no's. 3 no's, 5 no's, depending on the day, Monday through Friday. That's the goal.
Gotcha. So you're just hitting it in the morning, and if you don't get it in the morning, you take a little break, get your kind of mind right, and then you jump back into it in the afternoon.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So I guess the biggest thing that people have, I want to recap here, but the biggest challenges people seem to have with it, number one is fear, I think probably of getting on the phone. We kind of talked about, getting in the right mental headspace for that. Rejection, I guess you kind of remove rejection by not really looking to sell them, right?
Yeah, it's 2 things. You got to make it a game. Look, it's not easy. It's cold calling is kind of annoying. It's tedious. It's a lot of work. It's consistency, and you do it every single day. I make it a game. I set goals for myself. I'm pretty disciplined in trying to reach my goals, and it's very simple, little goals. So every day I want to make 10 contacts. I want to make sure that when I dial, I talk to 10 people, to 5 people, and then I get no's. And that's it. I want to get no's from people. So if the no, in order for me to get a no, I have to ask a question. So I'll set up certain questions that I want to ask, and I want to get no's for those. So guess what? Sometimes out of those 10 phone calls, I might get 3 no's. On the second one that I'm trying to reach my 3 no's, I might get a yes from somebody. Awesome, I got my yes, but dude, I want no's. So I keep going until I get all my no's. So yes is just a happy thing that might happen for me trying to chase my no's. So you make it a game. The game is how many no's can I get? And that's it. There's no pressure because I'm going to get the no's. That's what I want to get.
Do you think at this point, with as much as you've done it, because I think the other thing people are afraid of is maybe getting insulted or something like that. Does that bother you at all, or are you pretty much just like, whatever, on to the next?
No, I love it. I don't get it. I don't get insulted by people. You get some people who get mad, but it's like I've done it for so long, Tucker, and I've dealt with so many. I remember my first job. I was dude, I was talking to 150 people a day from all around the country, different personalities. So you get, and part of my job was doing customer service for computers that broke down half the time. So
yeah, they're pissed.
Oh, so you get used to it. So it's kind of like this thing. It's a contact sport. You know, like if you're not afraid to get hit, you're gonna get to the other side. And it's almost like the Matrix. Once you make it to the other side and you take the blue pill, and it's like, dude, I see it. You know, and it's not a big deal because it's not about you. It's about them. A lot of these people, especially the people that I call, these are people who are in the process of losing their home in pre-foreclosure. So you know they're in a certain spot. So you know they're a little irritated. So you know you can't take that stuff personal. And actually, I have a sympathy for them, and I kind of feel bad sometimes. And I think that translates over the phone. So it's very rare that I get an asshole. You get them, but it's like, okay, dude, you gotta keep it moving. It's like, okay, man, good luck. You know, what am I gonna do? And that's it. I got my no. Yay for me.
Yeah, right. Well, and that goes into my next question, which is how do you not let it affect you? But it sounds like, you know, basically it's kind of your matrix analogy, right? Like you just kind of, once you get over the hump, it doesn't affect you anymore, right?
No, it's mindset, and that doesn't happen overnight. You got to make a whole bunch of calls. It's not easy, Tucker. Like, you got to do this a whole bunch of times. You got to do 10,000 shots at that 10,000 hours. You know, you got to do them. And one day, you know, and if you have the stamina and you have the consistency to do it, you're going to make money. You know, I don't spend any money in marketing. Like, I spend very little. I send out some mailers. I'm always on the phones basically all the time. And I have a stacked pipeline all the time. And there's times where I stop because I have so many deals and I don't have enough money to fund any deals, and I stop. And I literally start calling again in a month, and I fill up my pipeline again. So that's not by coincidence.
No, it's. I mean, you basically have a skill set where you can write your own check in life, which is a pretty powerful thing, right?
Yeah.
So real quick, let's just go through. You do a call, you talk to somebody, you're really just trying to build an initial relationship. How do you end that call, and then where do you pick it up from there so that you can like nurture that lead along the process? Because you've got a long sales cycle, like you talked about.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I do an open-ended contract. So basically, I'm at the end of the conversation, and again, my intent is if I can get them to build a little rapport, that's what even a little bit of rapport. So my goal, if I get a no afterwards, is to try to see if I can get some sort of contact information, like an email. I can get a laugh. I could get something, confirm their mailing address, like something very little. And then from there, I'm like, look, I'm going to email you. Is it okay if I email you my contact information? Or if it's a property that I'm listing or a property that we're fixing up and rehabbing, I'll tell them, look, are you interested in finding out, you know, more about the progress of how it's working? Once I'm done it, or would you like to come and see the property after it's done? Oh, that's so nice of you. Yeah, of course. You know, obviously, you know, this is your neighborhood and you live here, and I'm sure you want to influence who lives here. I want to give you the opportunity. If you find somebody or a family member who wants to live here, I want you to be the first before we put it on the market. So it's like little things that I did to plant the seed. And typically what I'll do afterwards, if I get an email, I put them in an email drip campaign. And then we'll send them mails. Like I send like thank you notes. I'll send like holiday letters, and then I'll follow up with phone calls. Little stuff, nothing crazy. But that's usually what the sequence that I'll do.
Gotcha. So it's just really, you know, it's just the first call is the start of a long sales cycle, essentially.
Yeah, man, planting the seed, brother. You don't get a tree, you know, in one day. You gotta water it, sunshine, you know. But the way this thing works is after you do it long enough, you have enough seeds out there where you're gonna have a field of harvest. So that's the way it works. It takes a long time at first, but once you start planting all the seeds, they start growing themselves.
Yeah. Well, all right. I mean, makes sense to me. I mean, same thing we do with direct mail. We're like the Navy they send in with the big battleships, right? When we're blasting out our direct mail. You're like the SEALs that they drop in out of the helicopters, and you guys go swim in and take care of business and get back out. I like that analogy. That's
the same exact same goal, same purpose, same process. It's just a little bit smaller scale, a little bit more refined skills. It's a lot tougher. You get hurt, you can die easier, but this is what it is.
Yeah.
So give or take, man. If you don't want to spend all the money marketing, then hey, this is your other avenue. At the beginning, when you have no money, it's called guerrilla marketing. You got to do what you got to do. And if you're hungry and you want to make it happen, this is really the only option that I see to get in this business. until you get enough money where you could send out a bunch of mailers, you could start with this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think cold calling, if done consistently, is a great way to jumpstart your real estate investing business, without a doubt. I mean, no question. And if done in conjunction with direct mail, it's a great way to...
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Yeah. Well, you're so good at cold calling, you don't need to send direct mail till after you talk to them. But
yeah,
some
you
people...
know how I talk myself all the time. I got to send direct mail, but I'm like, fool. I'm like, shit.
Yeah,
I can do it. Just make a phone call. So, yeah.
Well, you're SEAL Team 6. SEAL Team 6 doesn't have to send direct mail. So let's talk real quick, just in terms of like the nitty gritty on what it is that you actually use on a daily basis to execute the cold calls. What do you use for data generally to find people, and then what kind of phone system do you use to call?
All right, awesome question. So there's two lists that I have because these are the most effective lists that I found. So driving for dollars. That's huge. So I build a list off of driving for dollars, and then pre-foreclosures. That's basically who I market to when I make phone calls. I use the Mojo Dialer has a database in it, and basically that's what I use, a database that I use, a Mojo Dialer. So that, and then I have like a little headset that because I like to walk around and move my hands and all this crazy Wolf of Wall Street stuff when I'm walking around. So I have like a headset piece that I use. And that's it, man. And Mojo Dialer in the laptop. You can make phone calls from anywhere. I've done it where I take the laptop. Yeah, I park my car on the side, and then I'm like, dude, it's time to make dials. I didn't make all my no's. I sit down, I'm parking on the side. I have Wi-Fi on my phone. Turn on the Wi-Fi, get the laptop running. Boom, start making phone calls.
They say motion creates emotion, right? So you gotta get the hands feeling. My Joni, who you met when you were out here, she's always pissed at me because my Fitbit says I take like 18,000 steps a day because my hands are flailing while I'm talking about that.
You're cheating. I hope you guys don't compete.
Yeah, well, no, she's like, there's no way you had 18,000 steps a day. I was like, oh,
you're cheating my hands. The biggest biceps I've ever seen.
Yeah. That's funny. All right, so I think we got everything that I wanted to get at you in terms of cold calling. With in terms of if people want to connect with you, I know you're kind of you're not as out there as myself by any means, and you like it that way. But if somebody wanted to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Join the DFA. If you're part of the DFA, you can have access to me all day. So
that's true. There you go. And then one last thing, if you want to go somewhere, maybe a little vacation, something like that, or you just want to borrow somebody's super nice i8 or Ferrari, what's the app for that?
You're so funny. Come to Miami, I got you. Turo, you can use that if you're on vacation. Great car. Great app. For cars.
What's funny is after we rode in that i8, I was looking it up and they retargeted me. So every time I get on Facebook now, I got Turo app to pop up.
You're locked.
I'm like, man, that's a pretty good idea. Maybe I'll go rent a Ferrari this weekend. So that's funny. So, all right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you hopping on here with me and kind of pulling back the curtain on how you do your cold calling. There's not a lot of people that do it well. There really is not. And there's definitely not a lot of people that do it consistently. On top of that, and you do both of those things. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, and I appreciate you getting on here and talking about it.
Thank you, Tucker. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man.
All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed that repost with Mr. David Martinez. Great interview. Like I said, one of our most popular shows to date. So kudos to him for giving me a great interview and giving you guys some great actionable info when it comes to cold calling. Now, next week, a little teaser for you. I'm going to be bringing on my better half to talk about design, construction management, and contractors. So she's decided that she's willing to come on the show. It's only taken 6 years, but she's willing to do it. And so next week we're going to do a show, and I know you guys are going to dig it. But before I leave you this week, I want to leave you with a closing success quote. And this quote is from the book, The Power of Positive Thinking. And I saw it and I thought, you know what? This is a good one for the show. So the quote goes,
Action is a great restorer and builder of confidence. Inaction is not only the result, but the cause of fear. Perhaps the action you take will be successful. Perhaps different action or adjustments will have to follow. But any action is better than no action at all. I think that's important to say, especially with all the news in the last week. A lot of people are just unhappy out there. And, you got to do stuff to be happy. You can't take a pill. You can't go to therapy. You just got to do shit. And you do shit, you get happier, right? And not all stuff is successful. Hell, I've done a lot of stuff that's not successful. But you do things, and eventually you get traction, and that traction creates happiness for you. So, anyway, that's my little 2 bits here on the end of this week's show. Hopefully you enjoyed the repost. Hopefully you enjoyed the quote. And I'll see you all next week.